What happens when a kingdom reaches the height of its power and then slowly begins to fall apart? 1 Kings tells the story of Israel at its peak and the quiet cracks that lead to division, decline, and spiritual drift. It begins with wisdom, wealth, and worship under King Solomon, but ends with a fractured nation and competing loyalties. This is a story about leadership choices, faithfulness, and the long-term consequences of turning away from God. In this video, we'll walk through 1 Kings, tracing Israel's rise, its internal struggles, and the warning signs that still speak clearly today. Overview. 1 Kings opens with the final days of King David and the transition of power to his son Solomon. Solomon's reign marks a golden age for Israel. He is known for extraordinary wisdom, vast wealth, international influence, and the construction of the temple in Jerusalem. Early in his rule, Solomon seeks God above all else, asking not for power or riches, but for wisdom to govern the people well. God grants his request and adds prosperity and honor beyond measure. The centerpiece of Solomon's reign is the building of the temple. This is more than an architectural achievement, it represents God dwelling among his people. Israel is unified, worship is centralized, and the nation enjoys peace on every side. But the story does not stay in this place of blessing. As Solomon grows older, his heart begins to drift. Political alliances lead to foreign marriages, and foreign influences introduce idol worship into Israel. What began with wisdom slowly gives way to compromise. God warned Solomon that unfaithfulness will bring consequences. After Solomon's death, the kingdom fractures. His son Rehoboam's harsh leadership sparks rebellion, dividing Israel into two kingdoms, Israel in the north and Judah in the south. The remainder of 1 Kings follows a pattern of political instability, spiritual decline, and repeated failure to follow God's ways. Historical and social setting. 1 Kings reflects a time when Israel transitioned from unity and prosperity into division and uncertainty. Kings were expected not only to rule politically, but to guide the nation spiritually. Faithfulness to God was directly tied to national stability. The divided kingdom created ongoing tension. The northern kingdom of Israel, in particular, struggled with idolatry from its very beginning. Kings often prioritized political control over spiritual obedience, setting up rival worship centers to maintain power. This period shows how leadership decisions shape not only immediate outcomes, but generations to come. Key themes in 1 Kings. Wisdom and discernment. Solomon's early reign highlights the power of wisdom rooted in humility. His famous judgment between two women claiming the same child reveals discernment guided by God, not human cleverness. Blessing and responsibility. God's blessings come with expectations. Solomon's wealth, influence, and peace were meant to support faithful leadership, not self-indulgence. Prosperity without obedience becomes dangerous. Worship and God's presence. The temple symbolizes God's desire to dwell among his people. Solomon's prayer at the dedication emphasizes repentance, prayer, and dependence on God as the foundation of national life. Compromise and spiritual drift. Solomon's gradual acceptance of idol worship shows how compromise rarely happens all at once. Small concessions lead to long-term spiritual erosion. Consequences of leadership choices. Rehoboam's refusal to listen to wise counsel results in the permanent division of the kingdom. Leadership rooted in pride instead of humility brings lasting damage. Faithfulness versus power. Many kings in 1 Kings choose control over obedience. The book repeatedly shows that political strength without faithfulness leads to instability and decline. God's sovereignty in history. Despite human failure, God remains active. The division of the kingdom, though tragic, unfolds within God's broader plan, demonstrating that human rebellion does not cancel divine purpose. Key verses in 1 Kings. 1 Kings 3 verse 9, Give your servant therefore an understanding mind to govern your people. Solomon's request for wisdom sets the tone for his reign. 1 Kings 6 verses 12 to 13, God's promise to dwell among Israel if they obey his commands. 1 Kings 8 verse 27, But will God indeed dwell on the earth? Solomon acknowledges God's greatness even as the temple is completed. 1 Kings 9 verses 6 to 7, God's warning that unfaithfulness will lead to loss and exile. 1 Kings 11 verses 9 to 11, God confronts Solomon's divided heart and announces future consequences. 1 Kings 12 verse 16, the people reject Rehoboam, marking the division of the kingdom. Relevance Today. 1 Kings speaks powerfully to anyone in leadership or influence. It reminds us that wisdom must be continually sought, not assumed. Success, comfort, and recognition can quietly weaken spiritual focus if vigilance is lost. The book also highlights the danger of gradual compromise. Faithfulness is rarely abandoned in a single moment, it erodes through unchecked decisions and divided priorities. 1 Kings challenges us to examine not only our actions, but the direction of our hearts. For communities and nations, the message is clear: unity and stability depend on humility, wise counsel, and values rooted beyond personal ambition. Closing thought. 1 Kings is a story of beginnings and endings, of wisdom gained and wisdom neglected. It shows how a kingdom built on devotion can crumble through compromise, and how leadership choices echo far beyond one lifetime. As we reflect on this book, we are reminded that true wisdom is not found in power, wealth, or success, but in consistent faithfulness and humility before God. The rise and division of Israel invite us to choose carefully what we build, what we trust, and what we allow to shape our lives.